I never believed in coincidences, especially not when it comes to something as huge as your marriage falling apart. My name's Mike, and I thought I knew everything about my wife, Lisa. We've been together for 10 years, married for 8, and I always thought we had a good thing going. Sure, there were little fights here and there, but we were solid. She was a little bitchy sometimes, yeah, but I figured that was just her personality. I loved her, and I thought she loved me back. We decided to do a couples retreat last month. It was supposed to be a way to reconnect, to fix the small cracks that had been forming over the past year. The retreat was held at this fancy center up in the mountains, beautiful scenery, relaxing atmosphere. They promised workshops, counseling sessions, activities designed to bring us closer. I was eager, hopeful that maybe we'd come out of it stronger. From the start, I noticed Lisa acting a little different. She was more dismissive than usual. She snapped at me over small things like how I folded the towels or what I chose to eat. She ignored me during breakfast and spent a lot of time texting. I shrugged it off at first, thinking she was just tired or maybe annoyed about something at work. But deep down, I had this gut feeling that something was off. It was only during the second day that I started noticing the weird stuff. On the retreat, they had all sorts of activities, and I decided to do some of the team exercises with other couples. I was talking to a guy named David. He seemed pretty cool, and somehow the conversation turned to the staff. That's when I heard him mention something about Lisa and the retreat leader's daughter, Emily. Said they'd seen her sneaking around in the off-limits parts of the center, holding hands with her, practically sneaking off like they were hiding something. My stomach clenched. I asked him what he meant, and he looked around nervously, then said he saw Lisa and Emily together in a really private spot near the woods, and that they seemed pretty close. I thought it was some kind of joke or misunderstanding at first. But then I remembered how Lisa had been acting, so distant, so secretive, and suddenly everything clicked. Why was she texting so much? Why was she sneaking off? I started to feel this cold knot tighten around my chest. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything I'd heard and seen so far. The way Lisa was acting, the little lies she'd told me when I asked about her whereabouts, the way she'd snapped at me for no good reason. I knew deep down, I knew she was cheating. I just didn't want to believe it yet. The next morning I decided I couldn't stay silent. I had to confront her. But how do you confront someone you love and suspect is cheating on you? I didn't even know if I wanted to hear her excuses or if I just wanted to punch her in the face. The whole trip was supposed to be about fixing what was broken, and instead, I felt like I was about to find out that everything I believed in was a lie. When I finally saw her alone in the dining hall, I took a deep breath and approached her. Her eyes flicked up to mine, and that smirk she always wears, like she's better than everyone else, made me furious. I asked her straight out if she'd been sneaking around with Emily, if she'd been cheating on me. Her response: she blinked, leaned back, and shot me a look like I was the crazy one. "Oh, come on, you're overthinking this. You're jealous, Mike, it's nothing," she said, rolling her eyes. I couldn't believe her lies. She always had a way of turning things around, making me doubt myself. I told her I knew she was sneaking off, I knew about Emily, and I wanted the truth. But she just shrugged and kept pretending she didn't care. That's when I saw the bitchiness in her eyes, her defiance. She was trying to gaslight me, to make me doubt my own instincts. That's when I felt it, this burning mixture of anger, heartbreak, and betrayal. I knew then I couldn't stay silent. Whatever she was planning, whatever lie she was going to tell me next, I had to do something. I wasn't going to let this slide. I had no idea what I'd do next, but I knew this wasn't going to end with her getting away with it. Not after everything I'd seen and heard. I was pissed, hurt, and feeling like I'd been sucker punched by the person I trusted most in the world. And that's where I am now, standing in the middle of this mess, trying to decide what comes next. After I confronted Lisa in the dining hall, she just looked at me like I was some paranoid psycho. Her voice was always so bitchy, so dismissive. She rolled her eyes and basically told me I was imagining things, that I was jealous and crazy for jumping to conclusions. She said that Emily was just a friend, that I was overreacting because I was insecure. That's when I realized she was good at lying, way too good. She was a master at hiding the truth behind a smirk and some bullshit excuses. I could feel the rage boiling up inside me, but I kept my composure. I pressed her, asked her why she was sneaking off, why she was acting like she was hiding something. She snapped at me, got defensive, and kept spouting that I was paranoid. I wanted to scream at her that I wasn't paranoid, that I'd seen her with my own eyes, but I knew better. If I pushed her too hard, she'd just deny everything and spin some story. The thing is, Lisa always played the victim when she was caught lying. She'd lie, deny, then turn it around and make me look like the crazy one. I didn't want to be that guy anymore. I had to know the truth, even if it meant facing the worst. So I quietly pulled out my phone and I started checking our messages, emails, anything that could give me more proof. I wasn't stupid. I knew she'd cover her tracks, but I had to try. What I found shocked me even more. There were hidden messages, texts she'd deleted, but I managed to recover. She'd been texting Emily early in the mornings, late at night, even during our workshop sessions. The tone was way too intimate, way too flirty. Stuff like "can't wait to see you again" and "meet me where no one can see us." I saw a photo she sent her, an off-guard shot of her in the bathroom looking seductive with a caption that read, "Wish you were here." My stomach turned. It was like a punch in the gut all over again. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and the rage I'd been suppressing boiled over. I wanted to tear her apart right there. I wanted to shake her and demand she tell me the truth. But instead I just looked at her and said, "I know everything. I saw the messages, the sneaking around. How long has this been going on?" She paused, her bitchy attitude melting for a second, and then her eyes flashed with that same sneer. "Oh, please," she said, crossing her arms. "It's nothing. You're blowing this way out of proportion. We're just friends. Emily's not some lover or anything. You're imagining things." She kept lying, and I kept feeling this intense mix of anger and sadness. I mean, I knew she was a bitch sometimes, but I didn't think she'd cheat on me during a retreat meant to save our marriage. It was like everything I thought was real was a lie. I looked at her and realized she'd been lying to me for months, probably longer. All the signs, her mood swings, her secretive texts, her dismissiveness, had been there. I just hadn't wanted to admit it. I told her I had proof, that I wasn't going to let this slide. And her reaction, she laughed a little, then threw her head back like I was just some insignificant bug. "You're pathetic," she spat. "You think I'm gonna sit here and explain myself to you? Grow up, Mike. It's not like I owe you an explanation for screwing her. She's better than you anyway, better in bed, better looking, and obviously more exciting." That hit me hard, more than I expected. Seeing her so bitchy, so dismissive, made me realize how much I'd been blind. I'd always thought she was just a little mean sometimes, but it turns out she was a straight-up cheating bitch. And the worst part, she didn't even care that I knew. She just kept throwing insults, mocking me like I was nothing. In that moment, I felt so many things at once: anger, tears, a deep aching in my chest. This wasn't just a betrayal of my trust. It felt like she'd taken a big dump on everything I believed in. I started thinking about the years we spent together, how she'd lied to me, cheated on me in the most humiliating way possible. I knew that if I stayed silent, she'd keep lying, keep hurting me. I had to decide what to do next, and that's when I realized I couldn't let her get away with it. I had to plan my revenge, even if it meant breaking her in the process. I wasn't going to be some sucker who gets played and then just walks away. No, I'd make her regret ever crossing me. I'd make sure she knew I wasn't some pushover. I was done being the guy who gets betrayed and keeps quiet. I'd have my justice, one way or another. After I gathered all the evidence and saw her sneer and mock me, I knew I couldn't just walk away and forget about it. The rage inside me was building, but I had to keep my head clear. I needed a plan, something calculated, something that would hit her where it hurt most. I sat in my car outside the retreat center for a long time, just staring at the building, trying to think through my next move. First, I decided I needed to confirm everything. I didn't want her to just deny the evidence or come up with some half-assed excuse. I kept digging through my messages, her phone, her emails. I found more. Stuff she thought I'd never see, screenshots of her flirty conversations with Emily, pictures of her in bed, texts about planning their next meetup. The more I saw, the more I felt that cold, sick feeling in my stomach. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was a deep, ongoing affair. I couldn't believe how much she lied. She'd always been such a bitch about her privacy, but now I saw how she used it to cheat behind my back. That bitchy attitude. It was her armor for sneaking around, hiding her dirt. I thought about confronting her again, but I knew she'd just spin some bullshit, deny everything, blame me for being insecure or crazy. Instead, I decided to wait until I had everything, the perfect evidence, the perfect moment. That night I stayed in my hotel room trying to calm down, but I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with Emily, her smile, her touch, the sneaking in the woods. I felt this intense mixture of shame and fury. How could she do this to me? After 10 years, I was honestly contemplating whether I should just pack up and leave immediately, but I knew I needed to think smarter. I wanted her to know I wasn't some fool she could manipulate anymore. The next morning, I decided I'd catch her red-handed. I set up a little trap. I told her I was feeling sick and needed to rest, but really, I parked myself near the spot where she'd been sneaking around, hiding behind some trees and bushes. I took out my phone and started recording. If she came back to meet Emily, I wanted proof that I could show her, that I could confront her in front of everyone, or even just use it as leverage. It wasn't long before I saw her slip out of her room, looking around like she was trying to avoid detection. Then I saw Emily's head peeking out from behind the trees. My heart started pounding. I pressed record, holding my breath as they got closer. Lisa was wearing this tight dress, her hair perfect, acting like she didn't have a care in the world. Emily looked younger, maybe early 20s, with a mischievous grin. They started talking quietly, but I could hear snippets of their conversation. Lisa kept whispering, "Are you sure no one sees us? We can't keep doing this in the open." Emily responded with a laugh, then she leaned in and kissed. Lisa, that's when I felt this sickening twist in my gut. My wife, the woman I loved, was cheating on me with her lover's daughter in the woods during a retreat meant to save us. I stayed hidden, recording everything, trying to piece together how far this went. I knew I had enough now. I had the proof I needed. But at the same time, I felt drained, completely exhausted emotionally. I wanted to explode, to confront her right then and there. But I knew I had to hold back, gather my thoughts, and decide whether I'd tell her I knew or use this against her later. As they finished and went back to the retreat center, I stayed rooted to my spot, trembling with rage. I thought about how she always played the victim, how she had lied and manipulated me for months. I thought about how her sneaky attitude, her bitchy smirk, had all been part of this charade. I was furious at her for betraying everything we had, for sneaking around in the woods like some cheap affair was just a game. Now I was faced with a choice. Do I confront her immediately? Do I tell her I have all the evidence? Or do I bide my time and plan my revenge? I knew whatever I decided, my life was never going to be the same again. The woman I trusted, the woman I loved, had turned into a lying, cheating bitch, and I was damn sure I was going to make her regret it. That night I couldn't sleep. The footage I had recorded played over and over in my mind. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her lips on Emily's, her hand in Emily's hair, the way she looked so confident, so shameless. I felt like I'd been sucker punched repeatedly. I was furious, hurt, and feeling like I'd been completely duped. How could she cheat on me during what was supposed to be a marriage-saving retreat? It was like she'd been planning this behind my back for months. I kept asking myself, what now? Do I call her out right there the next morning? Do I confront her, or do I wait, plan my move, and make her sweat? I knew I couldn't just let her lie her way out of it. She'd always been good at that, lying, twisting, making me doubt myself. But this time I had proof, clear, undeniable proof. The thing was, I was angry enough to explode, but I also felt cold and calculating. I knew I had to do this carefully. If I yelled or stormed in guns blazing, she'd just deny everything, call me crazy, and I'd look like the jealous husband. I had to be smart. I had to think about what I wanted, whether I wanted her to admit everything and maybe, just maybe, work things out, or if I'd finally had enough and wanted to cut my losses. I decided I'd wait until the morning, then confront her directly. But I also knew I couldn't just confront her with words. I wanted her to see that I wasn't the fool she thought I was. I needed her to understand that I had everything on her, every message, every secret meeting, every lie. That's when I remembered a trick I read about online, how to catch a cheating spouse in the act, using their own devices against them. I secretly installed a keylogger on her phone when she wasn't looking, just to see if she'd try to hide anything else. I wasn't proud of it, but I was desperate. The next morning, I woke up early, feeling like a predator. I didn't want her to suspect I knew anything, so I pretended to be casual. I watched her as she got ready, her bitchy smirk back on her face like she thought she was untouchable. I played it cool, but inside I was boiling. I knew I had the evidence to ruin her, and I wasn't going to let her lie her way out. I waited until she went to the bathroom, then I moved quickly. I took out her phone and unlocked it. Thanks to the keylogger, I had access to everything. Her messages with Emily, her recent calls, everything. I scrolled through, heart pounding, as I saw more proof of their affair. She exchanged dozens of texts with her, and I saw plans for their next secret meetup. I also found some explicit photos she'd sent Emily, which made my stomach turn. I felt a mixture of satisfaction and disgust. Satisfaction because I finally had her trapped, and disgust because I realized how much I'd been played. All those years I thought I was the one making sacrifices, working hard to keep us afloat, and she was secretly screwing around, lying to my face. I knew I couldn't let this sit. I had to confront her, and I had to do it in a way that would make her regret ever crossing me. When she came out of the bathroom, I decided it was time. I told her I had something important to discuss. Her face immediately shifted. She saw the serious look in my eyes and knew I'd discovered something. I laid it all out, showed her the messages, the photos, the recordings, her reaction. She didn't even blink. Instead, she looked at me with that bitchy, mocking expression and started to spin some story about how I was paranoid, how I was overreacting, and how this was all just a misunderstanding. That's when I snapped. I told her I wasn't stupid anymore, that I had all the proof I needed. I told her I knew about Emily, about her sneaking around, about the countless lies. Her face turned red, her eyes flashed with anger, but she kept trying to deny it. She kept insisting that I was just jealous or crazy, that I was imagining things, but I had enough. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You think you can lie your way out of this? You've been cheating on me, haven't you, with Emily? During our marriage, during this retreat, you betrayed me in the worst way possible." Her response was a bitter laugh. "Oh, please," she spat. "You're so pathetic. You think I owe you any explanation? You're just a jealous little man who can't handle the truth. Emily's just a girl having fun. You're too insecure to handle that." Her tone was nasty, dismissive, full of contempt. I could see she couldn't care less about what I knew or how I felt. That only made me angrier. In that moment, I realized I'd reached a point of no return. I could see her true colors. She was selfish, manipulative, and unfaithful. And I knew I couldn't stay married to someone like her. I had to decide whether I'd blow everything up or try to save what's left of myself. Either way, I was done being the one who got played and betrayed. I was ready to take control, to make her see that I wasn't going to be some fool anymore. And so, I started to plan my next move, how to make her pay for what she did, how to make her regret betraying me in the worst way. Because if there's one thing I learned, it's that betrayal doesn't just happen, it's a choice. And I was going to make damn sure she remembered that. The confrontation in the morning was just the beginning. After I laid all the proof out, she didn't even try to deny it anymore. Her bitchy smirk faded just a little, replaced by something cold and calculating. She looked at me like I was some bug she was trying to crush. I could see that she was trying to hold herself together, but her eyes gave her away. She was panicking just under the surface. I told her I knew about everything, about her sneaking off, about her messaging Emily, about the explicit photos. Her reaction was a typical dismissive one. "So what? What does it matter? I've told you I don't care anymore." She said it with that same snarky tone, like she was proud of herself, like she was some kind of rebel for cheating on me during our supposed marriage counseling. I felt my fists clench. The rage was bubbling up. But I kept my voice steady. I asked her why she did it, what made her betray 10 years of marriage, lie and cheat like it was nothing. She rolled her eyes and snapped, "Because you're boring, Mike. You're predictable. You work all the time, you never pay attention to me anymore. Emily's exciting and honestly better in bed. You're just a dull, insecure little man who can't satisfy his wife." Her words cut deeper than I expected. It was like she was admitting she knew she was wrong but didn't care. I felt this overwhelming mix of sadness and anger. I remember thinking, how did I get here? How did I go from a guy who loved his wife, who thought we were solid, to someone who's now listening to her insult me and admit she's cheating? It was like my whole world was falling apart. I wanted to hit her, yell at her, tear her down, but I also knew that wouldn't do any good. I had to stay calm, stay strategic. I told her that I was done with her lies, that I had everything I needed to end this marriage, and that I wasn't going to sit around and be her fool any longer. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You've betrayed me, Lisa. I gave you everything. I worked hard. I trusted you, and you repaid me with lies and sex with Emily. That's over now. I'm done pretending everything's okay." Her face twisted into that bitchy sneer again. "Oh, please," she spat. "You're so dramatic. Whatever you think you have on me, it's not enough. I don't care. I don't love you anymore. I'm done." She turned and started to walk away like she was already over the argument, but I wasn't done. I needed her to know how much she'd screwed up, how much she'd hurt me. I told her I was filing for divorce. I told her I was taking everything she'd done and using it to make sure she never thought she could manipulate me again. I said she could keep pretending, deny, lie, act like she's the victim all she wants, but the truth was out and she'd never get away with it. I told her I wanted her to leave that retreat center and never come back. When she heard that, she finally lost it. She started screaming, calling me all kinds of names, pathetic, insecure, jealous, and saying I was overreacting, that I was crazy, but I didn't care. I knew I was done. That night I made plans to get back home, to move out, and to start my new life without her. I felt relief and emptiness at the same time. But the worst part, as I packed my bags, I kept thinking about her bitchy attitude, her lies, how she'd always been a bitch in disguise. I realized that her cheating wasn't just about sex. It was about control, manipulation, and her selfishness. She used me, lied to my face, and treated our marriage like some game she could cheat on and then dismiss. I'd been manipulated for years, and I'd let her get away with it longer than I should have. Now, standing there alone with my stuff, I knew I had a choice. I could stay angry and bitter, or I could try to move on and learn from this mess. Honestly, I wasn't sure I could forgive her, maybe not ever. But I knew one thing: I'd never let someone betray me like that again. I'd rebuild, I'd start over, and I'd make damn sure she knew she'd lost the best thing she ever had, me. And that's where I am now, trying to pick up the pieces, trying to figure out how to move forward from the betrayal of a woman I loved and trusted. Because in the end, I learned that some betrayals cut so deep that you can't just forget. You have to face them, deal with them, and then decide what kind of man you want to be after. The days that followed were the hardest I've ever experienced. After I left the retreat center, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. Relief because I finally faced the truth, no matter how ugly it was. And emptiness because I realized how much I had trusted someone who turned out to be so deceitful. I kept replaying everything: the lies, the sneers, the secret meetings, and I couldn't help but feel a deep sting of betrayal that would probably stay with me for a long time. I knew I had to do something about it, not just for my own sake but to ensure she couldn't hurt me again. I contacted a lawyer, started the process of divorce, and made it clear to her that I wasn't going to back down or accept any more lies. The worst part was the way she acted, like she didn't care, like I was just some inconvenience she wanted to be rid of. That bitchy attitude had only gotten worse, and honestly, I was glad I was finally free of her. In the weeks that followed, I felt the full weight of everything. I was angry, I was hurt, but I also started to realize something else: I deserved better. I deserved someone who would treat me with respect, who wouldn't cheat and lie. I started to rebuild my confidence, block her from my life, and focus on myself. It wasn't easy. In fact, it was a brutal process, but slowly I began to heal. What struck me the most was how much I'd underestimated her. I always thought she was just a little bitchy, a little manipulative sometimes, but I never thought she'd cross the line into outright betrayal like this. The fact that she was cheating on me with her lover's daughter during a retreat meant to save us made me see her in a different light. I realized that her bitchiness was just a mask hiding a selfish, manipulative core. She didn't care about us, about our marriage, or about what she was doing to me. She just wanted what she wanted, no matter who got hurt. Looking back, I learned a lot. I learned that trust is fragile, and sometimes your instinct is the only thing you've got. I learned that people, even those you love, can hide their true nature behind a pretty smile and some lies. Most importantly, I learned that I was stronger than I thought. I thought I would crumble, that I'd be forever broken by her betrayal, but I realized I was capable of walking away, of starting over, of reclaiming my life. Now I'm not perfect. I still feel the sting of what happened sometimes, especially when I see couples happy or when I hear stories similar to mine. But I also feel a sense of victory, winning my own freedom, taking control back. I want anyone reading this who's going through something similar to know you're not alone. Betrayal hurts like hell, but you can come out the other side. Be honest with yourself, trust your gut, and never let someone manipulate or deceive you into thinking you're less than you are. I've learned that revenge isn't about destruction, at least not in the way most people think. It's about reclaiming your dignity, standing tall, and showing that you won't be broken by betrayal. I don't wish her any ill will anymore. I just want to move forward and find peace. My life is mine now, and I'll decide how it goes from here. The pain will fade, and one day, I'll look back at this chapter and realize it was the moment I stopped being a victim and started being the man I want to be. And that's the final lesson I'll leave here. No matter how much someone hurts you, you have the power to rebuild. Trust yourself, stay true to your values, and never forget your worth. The pain may never fully go away, but it will become part of your story, a story of strength, resilience, and ultimately redemption.